The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and afternoon, everyone. My name is Aaron Carell, and thank you for participating in today's 738th Justice Clearinghouse webinar, the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center, a unique law enforcement university partnership approach. Now, during our webinar today, Chief Gordon Ramsey and Kristen Brewer will discuss their partnership between the Wichita Police Department and Wichita State University. They will review their regional initiative, including the additional unique strategies they implemented as part of their regional initiative. As a member of the Presidential Commission on Law Enforcement and the Administration of Justice, Chief Ramsey will also provide attendees with an update on the progress made thus far by his prestigious group of criminal justice practitioners from across the United States. Now, a little bit about our presenters. Chief Gordon Ramsey was appointed as the Wichita Police Chief in January 2016. Prior to that, he had worked his way up the ranks of the Duluth, Minnesota Police Department and served as police chief from 2006 to 2016. As the Wichita Chief, he has focused on building strong relations with their community to lower crime and increase satisfaction with police. Working with community and elected officials, he established a successful Citizen Review Board and initiated liaisons with disenfranchised communities focused on building trust. Chief Ramsey has been recognized by many community groups for his leadership, including the NAACP and Greater Wichita Ministerial League. And in 2020, Chief Ramsey was appointed to the President's Commission on Law Enforcement and Administrative Justice, which is studying ways to make American law enforcement the most trusted and effective guardians of our communities. Kristen Brewer is our second presenter and is currently an adjunct instructor and the director of the Midwest Criminal Justice Institute and the academic coordinator for the School of Criminal Justice at Wichita State University. In addition, Kristen serves as both a point of contact and coordinator for the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center. She has worked in various capacities at WSU since 2009. The main role of the Midwest Criminal Justice Institute at Wichita State University is to provide training, technical assistance to law enforcement, program evaluation, outcome assessment on criminal justice issues, and strategic crime reduction consulting throughout the District of Kansas. Now, I also want to extend a special thanks to our friends and partners for helping with this presentation. Today's webinar is done in partnership with Ultra Electronics Forensic Technology. We truly appreciate our partnership with Ultra Electronics Forensic Technology, who is a leader in forensic analysis, providing innovative and effective solutions like its unique technology, the Integrated Ballistics Identification System, also known as IBIS. Now, the last few things I'd like to address with everyone is some basic housekeeping items. First, this event is being recorded and the formal presentation is scheduled to last about 60 minutes. It will be available on the Justice Clearinghouse website. Second, this is a listen-only event, but you can type in any questions that you might have through the GoToWebinar toolbar, and we'll take as many of those questions as possible at the end of the formal presentation. Next, if you experience audio issues during the webinar, such as the sound cutting in and out intermittently, consider dialing in using the phone number included with your emailed invite. And when the system asks for a PIN, you can just bypass that by hitting the pound key. Now, in a few minutes, I wanted to let you know that our presenters have included a video clip as part of this presentation. The audio can only be heard through your computer speakers. It will not be audible through a phone-only connection. I also wanted to point out the handouts that are available to you through the GoToWebinar toolbar. And finally, after today's presentation, there will be a follow-up survey, and we ask that you complete it. Your feedback is shared with our presenters and helps shape everything we do here at the Justice Clearinghouse. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn the presentation for our introduction today. Brandon, it's all yours.
Thanks, Aaron. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Since retiring from the Phoenix Police Department in 2015, I've worked with forensic technology, serving as a forensic intelligence strategy manager. In this role, I have the honor of working with crime labs, law enforcement, and prosecutorial agencies throughout the U.S., along with my partner, Jim Needles, who retired from ATF and joined forensic technology not long after myself. This is the 18th webinar in our Preventive Crime Gun Strategy series that we have partnered with Justice Clearinghouse on since 2017. And we are so grateful to work with great presenters like Director Brewer and Chief Ramsey from many agencies throughout the US and Canada who are willing to share their insight, best practices, and lessons learned. As many of you are likely already aware, forensic technology has a long-standing commitment to providing resources to criminal justice practitioners who are involved with establishing and enhancing their preventive crime gun strategies. Beginning many years ago with Pete Gagliardi's 13 Critical Tasks book and workshop, and now with our Preventive Crime Gun Strategy Playbook authored by Ron Nichols. As you can see on this slide, there are 8 components that make up an effective and sustainable preventive crime gun strategy, and today's webinar will highlight these components. Dating back to 2016, I've had the honor of working along with the stakeholders involved in the Preventive Crime Gun Strategy Initiative in Wichita and the surrounding jurisdictions, including ATF, the Wichita Police Department, Wichita State University, and others. Today's presenters, Chief Ramsey and Director Brewer, have been instrumental in the establishment of their regional Preventive Crime Gun Strategy Initiative, the foundation of which is a first-of-its-kind partnership between law enforcement and an educational institution. The establishment and success of the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center is a tribute to this teamwork, and we are so grateful to have Director Brewer and Chief Ramsey with us today to talk about their unique initiative, which we hope is the first of many of these partnerships in the US as well as other countries. Following a great video on the next slide, which provides an introduction to their initiative, Chief Ramsey and Director Brewer will discuss their outstanding program, including its genesis, stakeholders who have been critical to their success, as well as the unique features of this law enforcement and university collaboration.
33-132, Nanny Supervisor V10-4 for a drive-by 1827 South Madison, 1827 South Madison. Already.
Then breaking news out of Northwest Wichita tonight. Crews responding to reports of a shooting that left at least one person dead. They got the call tonight to that scene around 27th and Amidon, right around 9 o'clock.
Anna Alt got to the scene within the past hour. She joins us now live with what we know. Anna.
Currently, I am looking at the shell casings to determine if they are from the same potential crime gun. I am looking at the class characteristics on the breech face, the firing pin, the ejector.
Collaboration with the Wichita Police Department and our Crime Gun Information Center, we are for the first year offering a firearms tool mark and NIBIN course for students. The course addresses what NIBIN and the Gun Crime Information Center does downstairs. It also gives students an insight into forensic ballistics information.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. It is an honor to have you with us. I'm Gordon Ramsey. I'm the chief in Wichita. And this has been one of the more exciting projects I've been involved with in my almost 15 years as police chief. And really it is has come about because of our great relationship with Wichita State. Having been a chief in another community for 10 years, we had what I thought was a good relationship with our university, but I can tell you that you know, it's really been brought to new heights here with WSU, and this is you're going to hear about some of the great things that we're doing together in partnership. But first, a little bit about Wichita. Wichita is almost 400,000 people. We have about 160 square miles that we cover and about 700 police officers. We do have a pretty significant violent crime issue. We've had 183 non-fatal shootings to date, 50 homicides, 40 of which are gun-related homicides. Our all-time record for homicides was 57 back in 1993, and we are working very hard to slow the rate of homicides through efforts such as NIBIN. But we're having significant gun crime problems in the city, and it's been on the rise since about 2012. You know, one of the areas we see significant issues with is stolen guns from cars. In 2017, we had about 400 or 500 guns stolen just from vehicles in the city alone. We're going to talk about in this presentation some of the ways we've done to reduce that. But Kristen, you can go on to the next screen. But we're excited to have you here, and we really hope that this is worthwhile for you. This is I was telling the guys earlier, this is my 14th Zoom this week, and we want to make this interesting for you. We know your time is valuable. So thanks for being here today.
Welcome, everybody. As the chief said, WSU and WPD have had a long-standing relationship. The School of Criminal Justice at Wichita State University is the second oldest criminal justice department in the United States and houses both the Regional Community Policing Institute and the Wichita and the Midwest Criminal Justice Institute. Under the School of Criminal Justice also is the undergraduate, CJ, and graduate programs that are both taught traditionally online as well as a traditional method. And we also house the Forensic Science and Homeland Security programs. Both MCJI and RCPI have continued and currently and continue to provide training, technical assistance, research, evaluation, and grant assistance. Under training and technical assistance, the RCPI, under the COPS office, and MCJI have brought in over $15 million to provide training and technical assistance throughout the state of Kansas, Nebraska, and the western part of Missouri. WPD and WSU partnership thrives and excels on cooperation, coordination, and collaboration to be successful as we work together on many research projects. WSU helps validate research findings by providing the best course of action for WPD's effectiveness and legitimacy. MCJI also helps with the relevant evidence-based program models or helps in designing policies, programs, and best practices for WPD. Lastly, MCJI helps to analyze, prioritize the issues facing WPD and Sedgwick County as the increase in violent crimes and trends that are related to it. Our partnership goes beyond technical and training and technical assistance as well as research. It's more comprehensive to include co-ops and internships of students with WPD, providing the next step for students and the growth in numbers of WPD as well as other agencies. Our students finish their degree and move directly to working with WPD or other law enforcement agencies. This transition is made seamlessly between the classroom and the WPD due to being housed in the same building. Our students are not just traditional students. We have seen an increase in the number of law enforcement officers coming back to finish or start their degrees. This is in part to promotions and advancements within their agencies and the easy accessibility of being in the same building. Last, the number of SMEs from WPD teaching a range of our classes in our program not only helps us at WSU, but also provides a way to recruit for WPD. Chief, you want to add?
Our department members, about 75% have a 4-year degree, and most of which comes from WSU. When I arrived here in 2016 in January, there was an old training center that the police department had in conjunction with the sheriff's department, a joint academy. It was an old elementary school that they took over in 1985. Still with the authentic water fountains that were about 2 feet off the ground that most of our officers couldn't bend down far enough to get to. we needed a new training facility. Some great things were happening at the WSU campus with the innovation campus concept, where a lot of businesses were building on the campus to partner with the university. And someone had the idea, the mayor and the university talked about moving our academy to the campus. And in the end of 2016, that was finalized and construction began almost immediately. And we moved in at the end of 2017, early 2018. And you saw some of the video of our beautiful training facility that we share with the sheriff and WSU. I want to say it's about 60, 70,000 square feet of space, state of the art, something we can really be proud of. But this partnership also really spawned the Crime Gun Intelligence Center that we're going to talk more about. Next slide. So when we moved into the building, we had also been seeing this increase in violent crime, particularly around guns and shooting. We talked with our local RAC at the ATF, who was instrumental in helping us get to where we are today. Creighton Brandt, kind of talked about the concept of brass tracks and the different technology that we should be utilizing, and that was based on our violent crime. And together we got with WSU, and Kristen, I'll let you talk about how those talks evolved.
Thanks, Chief. So as the Chief stated, we recognize the need for brass tracks and match point stations here in Wichita. At the time, like he was saying, the Innovation Campus was coming to life, and after several meetings, trying to find a way to come up with money, we met with our VP over Research and Technology, Dr. John Tomlin, WPD command staff, and ATF. And we're able to put together a proposal, and the university perspective or buy-in was that we were going to create experimental opportunities for students and with a new way of learning for our students in the field.
And we've had so much success with this building, everything from recruiting, which I will add, in 2015, we had about 400 applicants, a little over 400 applicants for our positions. Last year, we had over 1,200 applications. So we greatly increased our number of applicants, and there's no doubt that is a big part because of our, cohabitation with the students who want to be police officers. It has been phenomenal for us from that sense as well. So the training center does house Wichita Police, our training section, the Sedgwick County Sheriff's training section, and the Wichita State Criminal Justice School. So all those entities work together. The Criminal Justice School is on the 3rd floor, and the different training offices and gym are on other parts of the building. But it has really been a great success. And for those of you that are struggling with recruiting and have an opportunity to partner with a university, we have found it this is an extremely helpful for us as we recruit, and also push our officers to continue to receive education. Next.
As the Chief said, the key to our success and continued success is the drive and partnership that our team brings. When we first started, Creighton Brandt and Brandon Huntley from Forensic Technology provided the information and push we needed to be successful. Chief Ramsey became the driving force behind getting the brass track machine to Wichita. He assigned this project to Deputy Chief Salcido, and his team has continued to build the foundation of the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center. Shortly after starting the process of getting the stations, Creighton left for a new detail, and Rat Craig Halloway quickly stepped in and has kept the momentum going. For the WSU side, Dr. John Tomlin, Director, School of Criminal Justice Director, Dr. Andy Bannister, Deputy General Counsel Misha Jacob, Fran Cook, and David Clam have continued to make our partnership and collaboration of the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center successful on the WSU part. Another big key element for us was Senator Moran and his staff. They've been a huge part of making sure that we can get the resources and backing us in the support of this project. And lastly, the USAO office. They have been a key stakeholder from the formation of the CJIC under the direction of the PSN, the partnership, and the continued success of it.
One of the issues that I found out as chief when we were talking about NIBIN in 2016, 2017, and beyond was there was some internal concerns because they had a NIBIN machine in Wichita in 2013, 2012 or so, and they didn't have any success with it. We later found out they were not using it as it should have been, but it still had that cultural factor of not being a useful technology. And that was one thing that we found pretty much out of the gates and was part of the delay in getting this program running. Kristen?
So our machine is co-owned between WPD and WSU. We have an MOU, and in that MOU, it allows up to 10 students to intern with WPD and the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center. We'll talk a little bit more in depth later on about it, but we're also able to teach a NIBIN class and allow students to connect an applied learning component, which brings the university in the vested part of this project. We started the construction of the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center space downstairs in the new academy in about October of 2019 within the first week, and we became operational, as the chief said, in October of 2019. Chief, I'll let you talk about this.
Okay. Well, you know, as we kicked this off, we were very honored to have the Attorney General Barr, Senator Moran come and visit us for our grand opening and kickoff, as well as we had a grant announcement that announced the funding for our Crime Gun Intelligence Center, as well as had a roundtable discussion on the violence that we were seeing in our area, as well as Kansas. And it was a great opportunity to show off our facility, as well as the great collaboration that's occurring here in Wichita.
Thanks, Chief. The Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Mission. The Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Mission is a part of an interagency collaboration focused on timely collection, management, analysis of gun crime evidence to identify shooters, disrupt criminal activity, and prevent future violence. The primary focus of the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center is to use programs such as NIBIN and E-Trace in conjunction with human intelligence and additional resources to identify armed violent offenders for investigation and prosecution. I apologize. The Wichita CJIC is comprised of three main partners: the Wichita Police Department, Wichita State University School of Criminal Justice, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive, ATF. In addition, we have the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office, the Sedgwick County District Attorney's Office, the Office of United States Attorney's Office, Sedgwick County Regional Forensic Science Center, NIBIN and Training Center, the NNTC, and the Bureau of Justice are all major contributors to the overall mission of the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center. It should be noted, though, we have and continue to grow our Wichita Crime and Gun Intelligence Center to be a regional hub for the state. In our initial planning, we added three of the larger western cities to include Garden City, Dodge, and Liberal. Garden City PD has and continues to be a big partner in our Project Safe Neighborhood partnership. The Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center is under the supervision of the Investigation Division of Property Crimes. Captain Clay Germany is the CJIC director. We have one full-time NIBIN tech, which is Erin Penny. We have three backups: Shelby Blankenship. She also serves as a crime analyst for Wichita Police Department and is a contract employee through ATF. And then Detective Chisholm, he's through Homicide. And then David Clam, he's retired KBI agent, and he runs our forensic science program here at WSU. And then myself, I serve as the point of contact for our CJIC and the WSU coordinator. However, all investigative and enforcement operations fall under the Wichita Police Department Investigative Division of Gang Felony Assault Section. The Section Lieutenant, Chad Beard, is responsible for conducting a weekly meeting of CJIC partners to discuss NIBIN leads and recent shooting investigations, as well as assigning the leads to make sure they are followed up on. Additionally, the lieutenant sends out NIBIN lead feedback letters to make sure the policy and SOPs are adhered to. WPD does not have an official NIBIN gun squad. However, there are 2 detectives that are TFOs with ATF and 3 other ATF agents that can assist with following up on some of the assigned leads. Currently, NIBIN leads are only assigned to detectives that have a connection with their assigned cases. Also, major components of the Wichita Crime and Gun Intelligence Center and the latest success and buy-in is buy-in from all 4 field captains by allocating each bureau commander's community response team on a temporary/rotating basis. The CRT team's temporary assignment consists of 16 officers and 4 supervisors on a rotating schedule to help them follow up on NIBIN leads. The Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center enters eligible evidence recovered from crime scenes and test fires cartridges from eligible firearms as timely possible to make the goal and evidence entries within 48 hours. We also follow ATF's minimum required operating standards to ensure consistency, integrity, and success of NIBIN. Chief?
So how is this going, you may ask? Well, we are pretty much in the top 4th for NIBIN sites. We rank 35th out of 240 sites for the most leads generated. 55th for the most acquired cartridge casings so far in 2020. We are getting a significant amount of intel from this system. Next slide. This slide really paints the picture of the success that we're having, whether it be the acquisitions or the leads. I mean, these graphs tell the story of what we're dealing with. We've had phenomenal success, more success than we ever could have imagined. You know, we all want more intelligence, but as we'll talk about shortly, we've been overloaded with intelligence. We didn't realize the amount of leads that we would be receiving, and we're struggling in many cases to follow up on all those leads. Next.
So part of our project in our regional, trying to make this a regional center, is we currently have MOUs with 10 other agencies and 3 outstanding MOUs that we should be getting back shortly. We've also assisted with 12 different agencies, including federal agencies and the Air Force, to do acquisitions to help on cases they have outstanding. So that continues to build and grow, and we want to become a regional hub for the state of Kansas.
So while we're still seeing an increase in gun crime, as many major cities across the country are seeing, I do need to point out, you know, the sheriff reminded me yesterday, we have 108 people in his facility that have been charged with homicide. We are catching most of our shooters. Our homicide clearance rate last year was over 90%, which is, you know, for a major urban city, that's pretty phenomenal. There's no doubt that NIBIN is playing a major role really in helping us catch these shooters, figure out what guns are going where. I do have to share a really great program, an innovative program that Deputy Chief Jose Salcido thought of in 2017 when we saw these large amount of guns being stolen from cars. Like I said, I want to say it was 400 or 500. A significant amount of our guns were stolen from cars, and he came up with the innovative idea to create a program that he titled Save a Casing. And the Save a Casing is where officers go to gun shows. We deal with our gun dealers to hand out envelopes for people who buy guns. When they have a casing that they've shot from their firearm, they put it in the envelope along with gun information like serial number, their name and addresses, and they keep that envelope somewhere separate from the gun, of course. And if the gun is ever stolen or lost, they provide us with that casing, and it will help us, in our efforts to reduce gun violence. Well, we initiated that program in 2019, and we had our first success story with that not too long ago when a citizen left their gun on top of their car and forgot about it and then drove to work. They reported it, later turned in, they had been part of the Save a Casing program and had their casings that they had put in our envelope. And we submitted to NIBIN, and we found out that that gun had been used in a shooting a day after the firearm was picked up off the street. So that has been a very successful program, and it really is, Kansas is a pro-gun state. Oftentimes gun laws can be controversial. There was really no discord around this program, and it has been embraced by our firearm dealers and citizens alike. Beyond Save a Casing, though, our NIBIN efforts have really helped us figure out who the trigger pullers are and who's doing what. Two quick stories that I'm going to share. One of them involved 3 shootings that were very concerning because they were random in nature. 2 of the incidents occurred along not far from downtown that really appeared to be random, that 4 people were shot at. And we quickly realized that this was likely a serial shooter, as none of the victims were connected to one another, and nobody had actually seen the shooter shoot the gun. NIBIN confirmed that 2 of the shootings were in fact committed by the same gun. We formed a task force, and interestingly enough, on July 4th, we were dealing with an intoxicated individual at a bar who was armed. They removed the gun, seized the gun, and it was ultimately, the firearm was tested as part of our NIBIN, our comprehensive process, and it later came back to the shootings near downtown where those random shootings had occurred. We had our suspect. NIBIN played, it wouldn't have been done without NIBIN. It played a major role in disrupting that shooting cycle and apprehended a very dangerous guy who was shooting people at random. We wouldn't have been able to solve that case if we weren't using NIBIN. The other one I want to talk about was a series of 6 shootings that involved the same firearm. These individuals were going around doing drive-bys, shooting at people. We had some suspect information that allowed us to focus in a little better. One of the suspects snitched on his friend who said he's the one who's going around shooting, but we didn't have the gun, and we didn't have anything other than the co-conspirators' comments. Ultimately, a traffic stop was made on the friend. A gun was found in the car after the individual fled on foot. That firearm was tested for prints. It matched our suspect who fled the car, as well as the gun was test fired, and the casings came back to match those 6 other shootings. With the prints on the car, prints on the gun, the co-conspirator information, the NIBIN information, we got a solid case for an individual who had been involved with at least 6 shootings. The stories and success speak for themselves, and it is helping us make a safer city. Next slide. I talked a little bit about Operation Save a Casing. You can see a little bit of our how we set that up. Our officers are going to gun shows and other public events to highlight the program and hand out the envelopes for people. There was a grant that we obtained to help us fund that program as well, but we've also had a lot of success with federal grants as part of NIBIN. And Kristen, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, thanks, Chief. So as the Chief was talking about our successes, we recognized early on that even though we came together and we're able to get the money for the grant or for the NIBIN machine or the IBIS machine, we needed money to fund other resources that go along with brass tacks. So we found at the time PSN was being revived, and we took our ideas along with the support of the USAO office and wrote the PSN grants around NIBIN. We've been awarded the PSN 2018, which consists of our planning phase to start our Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center, and traveled to other sites to understand their CJICs and how they use their ceasefire initiatives. Our PSN 2019 and 2020 that will be coming out shortly is the actual implementation of the best practices for our CJIC and focused deterrence, as well as the juvenile component, as we realize in the city of Wichita, we're seeing an increase in violence with juveniles, and a way to prevent the cycle of violence. The chief was talking about the Save a Casing grant. That's a PSN grant. It's actually the Supporting Innovation grant. And under that grant, we were able to do the Save a Casing project, as well as a NIBIN Tech, which pays for Aaron Penny's position for 2 years, and a gunshot detection system that's a pilot program just for Wichita. And then additional ammo was purchased under that grant for test fires in the NIBIN system. Last is the Wichita Crime and Gun Intelligence Grant. WPD was just finished the first year of that grant. We received a lot of help writing that grant from Tulsa and Phoenix. The grant provided resources to include firearms examiner, data collection software, interns, ammunition, training for the DA's office, sensors and cameras, as well as remote test fire systems. The Midwest Criminal Justice Institute, a little bit more about what we are and who we are. It's housed under the School of Criminal Justice. As I previously stated, we serve as evaluators, researchers, advisors on criminal justice issues. We serve on the PSN Task Force for the District of Kansas. MCJI serves as a researcher on grants for WPD, as well as helps in writing the grants, including previous grants that were just talked about. However, MCJI also helps with many other evaluations and projects for WPD, like the Broadway Corridor Team and the staffing assessment of their agency. Next, we're going to talk about something that's new and innovative. With our MOU to get the machine, to get the brass tracks and match point machine here, we agreed to have a NIBIN class. And in that NIBIN class, we call it, it's CJRFS 581AA. With that class, students get to learn fire marks and tool mark identification. Then they also learn the investigation side of it and the identification of it. So the goal of this class is to have students understand and be familiar with IBIS technology, the ATF NIBIN program, firearm and tool mark analysis, as well as the investigative strategies to form the foundation for the student. This class is taught by two well-known SMEs. The instructors are Michael Ebenhart. He's a retired chief of ATF Firearms Operation Division, which oversaw NIBIN and CJIC nationally, and he currently is the owner of Crime Gun Investigation Consulting, LLC, which provides training and consulting to law enforcement agencies relating to violent crime strategies. And Ron Nichols, he's the president of Nichols Forensic Science Consulting. Ron retired in 2017 from ATF, where he served as a firearm and tool mark examiner on the NIBIN leadership team. Ron was responsible for setting up this initiative in NCTC when it was doing his trial run. In addition to the class, the class will be taught at least once a year, and we have agreement with WPD to have student interns around NIBIN and CJIC. Students can take the NIBIN class and then apply to do an internship with the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center or WPD. As I stated, our MOU with WPD provides to select no more than 10 students per semester in an educational experience, field experience. This can include, but not limited to, the Wichita Crime and Gun Intelligence Center, investigation, or the crime linkage unit. So some lessons learned and benefits that we, for WPD and the Wichita Crime Gun Intelligence Center. One of the biggest lessons we learned, because we got our machine and everything happened so quickly with a visit from Attorney General Barr and Senator Moran, if we wouldn't have had the help from other sites, we wouldn't have been successful to the point that we are at right now. So we reached out to other sites for best practices, information, and resources. This is one of the biggest key factors in us being successful. Some of those connections specifically was Jessica and Phoenix PD in Denver. Along with our PSN money, we were able to take site visits to Denver and Cincinnati most recently. We also took a trip to Tulsa when we were first beginning. And we cannot stress enough how important to establish and maintain relationships with outside CJIC partners, agencies, and internal personnel, along with ATF. Chief, would you like to provide some more insight on this information?
Thanks, Kristen. So from our perspective, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, the buy-in from your staff is critical. Not only internally with your staff, but also relationships with ATF. And throughout my career in various stages, I've always had a tremendous relationship with ATF, and I think they're one of our, historically, one of the best partners that I've worked with. And the strong relationship we had with the ATF here in Wichita no doubt helped propel us to further success. The key in is, you know, acquiring all this and getting this program together really, though, was a big part of it was with Senator Moran's support and his staff. They have been tremendous. They have been at the table. They call frequently and ask what they can do. We couldn't ask for a better relationship or a better senator. He understands the issues. He calls and asks about what's going on, and really cares about what's going on in Wichita. And he's been instrumental in helping move us along. As well as I mentioned, our relationship with the ATF, the U.S. Attorney's Office. We have a great relationship with our DA's office, and a DA who is very engaged with us and also wants to help move those numbers down. One thing that I found is that it's best to put one person in charge, and the chief needs to fully support them. We had a couple cases where, as I mentioned, when we had the 2012-2013 NIBIN machine, it didn't have a lot of success here. There was some baggage with those people that were involved in it that felt that NIBIN wasn't everything that it could be. So we had to get the right people in the right seats. And once we figured out who they were, the program really started to take off as well. But the internal kind of behind the scenes pushback for me initially was greater than I realized. And in hindsight, there were several people who just were dead weight and did not help move the needle forward with getting this program up and running. Once the leads started to come in, it went from next to nothing to overwhelming. The amount of leads we're receiving right now, we cannot keep up with them. And I guess it's a good problem to have from where we were, but we have had to reallocate staff to follow up on the leads, because these are leads that are going to take very dangerous people off the streets. But be prepared for that. When you get to the stage of flipping that switch, it's going to be overwhelming. As well as, you know, it takes more staff for this program. It would be very difficult. We could not do it without additional staff. We're a very lean organization for an urban city of our size. We are probably one of the leanest in the country, whether you compare us to sworn or support staff. So the grants have helped us with filling positions that are necessary for the success of this program. You know, the 21st century policing, the 6 pillars of that, they talk about utilizing technology to help us improve our success and community trust. And there is no doubt that this fits right with that. Next slide. Lastly, the Presidential Commission on Law Enforcement, it has been an honor to serve on that commission as one of only 2 police chiefs. We heard testimony, significant amount of testimony from people throughout the country. And the report has not been released, but I can tell you in the testimony, the public testimony that we received, a significant amount of experts from one end of the country to the other talked about the need for technology to help us reduce gun violence. NIBIN is at the heart of that. The crime gun intelligence centers came up time and time again from chiefs and experts throughout the country. And while I have not seen the final recommendations, I can tell you that we certainly heard from enough people throughout the country that this is an area that needs to be funded more and needs to be a priority for our urban cities and where shootings are happening too often as we move forward in the future. So I expect that will be a big part of the recommendations to fund more technology and focus on what we can do to reduce gun violence in our communities. And I am excited for the final report. And again, I was honored to be a part of that.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Brandon. I'm a retired ATF acting director, and now I'm with Forensic Technology, as you can see, the director of North American Sales and Intelligence Strategy. But I want to give a shout out to Director Brewer and Chief Ramsey for your leadership, and to the men and women of ATF that were involved. And Chief, you mentioned Senator Moran. I couldn't agree with you more. He's a man of impeccable character and competence and commitment. And I met with him before retirement, and he's genuine in his efforts to help reduce violent gun crime in particular. Looking at this, I've gone across the country and attended and reviewed a lot of CJICs. And what's the word unique is in this presentation is the uniqueness of a university, law enforcement, and community collaboration. And so for those that may be in academia listening and law enforcement and the community members, if you go back to the Venn diagram, when you were able to look at the presentation again, I think it was the third slide, that sweet spot of the intersection is where Director Ramsey, Director Brewer, and ATF's leadership really created synergy. And I don't think there's any more time in our country now, right there. That sweet spot of that Venn diagram is what's unique in this presentation, what distinguishes it from any other CJIC. And I just wanted to say how proud I am, Chief, of you and your accomplishment, Director Brewer, and all the men and women of ATF that have been involved in this from the beginning till now. It's very gratifying to see where we were. Chief, you mentioned how there was drag from your folks. That the best thing we did at ATF was turn this program into a leads generator. The best thing I did with my team was listen, and on April 1st of 2015, we pivoted at ATF to putting an emphasis on the NIBIN program and to CJICs. And there were, as you'll see here, a couple of books that were written. Pete Gagliardi, he's the grandfather of the NIBIN program, and his 13 critical tasks, which is available from our company for you, is a vital thing to learn. But also building on that was Ron Nichols' book, and where Brandon Huntley and Jim Needles contributed to it, in which this program is built on, is building a preventative crime gun strategy. I highly suggest you take a look at that. And again, just remember this was a unique presentation by unique leaders and who are really making a difference to disrupt the shooting cycle. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom, and thank you to all of our other presenters, Chief Ramsey, Director Brewer, Brander. Thank you so much for a fantastic presentation today. I got to tell you, Pete Gagliari is listening on the webinar and shared, well done, congratulations, and Godspeed as you move your program forward. Thanks for the work that you've done. So thank you both very, very much. Folks, as a reminder, the handout is available to you for download through the GoToWebinar toolbar. It is a flyer for the program, the Save a Casing program. So it answers some questions that people might have, talks about how they can work through the process and submit their casings. And we have received a ton of questions. We're going to try to get through as many as we can, but certainly if we're not able to get to your question, feel free to reach out directly to Chief Ramsey or Director Brewer using those email addresses and contact information in front of you. If you're not able to get a hold of them, or if you can't find your email address, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to forward any additional inquiries. I also wanted to let you know that our next crime gun related webinar with Ultra Electronics Forensic Technology is scheduled for January 26th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll be releasing details about the webinar shortly, but for now, just please do hold that date and time as well as the other date and times there in 2021. And now, Chief Ramsey, Director Brewer, if you guys are ready, I would love to start working through some of these great questions we have from the audience. Okay, our first question is from David. So David wanted to know what goes into those feedback letters that you mentioned towards the beginning of the presentation.
You want to add something?
I'm going to let, I have Lieutenant Chad Beard here with me. This is Kristen.
Fantastic.
I'm going to let Chad talk about what goes in those feedback letters.
Hello, my name is Lieutenant Chad Beard. I'm with the Gang Felony Assault Section here in Wichita. And as part of the feedback letters, I make sure that the officer that actually collected the cartridge casings on the scene, let them, I put that in the feedback letter, and then I make sure that that gets sent out to their supervisor in the field, as well as their captain of their bureau, so that they can have them put into the officer's personnel file. And I just want to tell them that, you know, thank you for being diligent about collecting the cartridge casing, and that we appreciate their hard work, and that this casing was actually connected to another incident, and that we at the CJIC Center continue to try to follow up on that to hopefully make an arrest or use that intelligence information for the other in criminal investigations. Hopefully that answers your questions. If you have more, that's I can always get you more information too.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Next question is for the Chief. Chief, how did you end up turning around the perception of the NIBIN program back when it wasn't quite as effective?
Ultimately, we kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And it was not just my effort. The ATF was very helpful in sharing stories of success. WSU was very helpful with our officers about showing data from other places. But some changes in leadership is what it ultimately took. While I thought things were moving along well, you know, sometimes behind the scenes, there's just that dead weight that you don't see, that drag that you don't see until months and months go by and the needle hasn't moved. Eventually, we did find where the drag was coming from and made the changes. But I can tell you right now, even the skeptics that were out there when we first rolled this out, now everybody that they're seeing this significant amount of intelligence and leads, I believe all of our folks now are believers in this system.
Outstanding. Next question comes from Mark. Mark asks, who does your test firing, and how many firearms examiners do you have?
Chief, do you want Chad to answer all this?
Yeah, go ahead, Chad. Thank you.
Okay, so the Wichita Police Department, we're in the process of possibly trying to obtain another, what I consider, or what I've classified as a firearms technician. Currently, we have an officer that comes in every at least 2 to 3 times a week, and right now we're paying them overtime to test fire our firearms at our property and evidence building. We have a snail trap room that was established there, so those casings are collected right there and then submitted right back into P&E, which then can be transported up to the CJIC Center. I'm sorry, I missed the second half of the question. Could you?
You bet. So it was, who does your test firing, and how many firearms examiners do you have?
Okay. Currently, the firearms examiners are through the Sedgwick County Regional Forensic Science Center. And that's been one of the things that has been one of our difficulties is continuing to keep those firearms examiners here, obviously with, you know, increased pay and different things like that. So we're currently using the Kansas Bureau of Investigations for all our firearms and comparisons that are needed for court testimony. And but we hope to fill that gap real soon with a new firearms examiner at the Sedgwick County Regional Forensic Science Center real soon.
And as he was saying, that's been the issue. And so in our CJIC grant, we wrote in for a position for a firearms examiner.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, all these positions are so critical that as an organization is looking at putting together a CJIC, you really should have almost do a mini org chart on what positions are going to have to be filled. It's a lot to wrap your arms around if you haven't been a part of one. As well as one of the other things to watch, you need to have metrics for your different entities. So our firearms testing, our shooting, the guy that shoots the guns, he was off for a while, and all of a sudden I saw our number of untested firearms was creeping up. And so I asked what happened, and somewhere along the line it got off track, and it's just one of those things you have to monitor. We weren't meeting our 48-hour turnaround time, and if you don't pay attention to some of those little things, other things will fall.
Absolutely. Okay, next question is how are NIBIN leads tracked within your agency, and how is accountability for follow-up handled?
What was the second one? Chat, will you repeat that question, please?
Absolutely. Yep. So the question is how are leads tracked within the agency, and how is accountability for follow-up handled?
Sure. Again, this is Chad Beard again. We have a weekly, what I call is a shooting review. And currently it's a little more difficult, obviously with COVID, it has to be done through a webinar. But during the shooting we review recent shootings from the past week, including criminal discharge cases and all or any NIBIN leads that are associated with any of those shootings or shootings that have occurred within the past week or two. During that time, we have created a spreadsheet, and for those that are able to do the follow-up, if it's not going directly to one of my detectives, we will assign that lead to either the officers or to the ATF TFOs or to the ATF agents, or we'll discuss whether or not we need to close that lead out. We classify our leads in a tier system, so tier 1, 2, and 3. If it's a tier 3, we'll close that lead out. And so each week during this meeting, and again, it's been more difficult because of COVID, we usually try to go back and we'll follow up to see what has been done on that case, if we've made an arrest. And then we've also worked really close with our district attorney's office and our AUSA. And so they'll know what people we're starting to focus on, some of our priority offenders or trigger pullers, and we will get with them. And then they also have a spreadsheet so that they know where their discovery is at, who's been charged, where that case is at. And so we'll know if that lead needs to be closed out or it's part of the tracking as part of the grant requirements.
Fantastic.
And all that grant and the tracking and the numbers, they come over to us at WSU, and we help evaluate and say, look, does it need to be focus your area on this on particular hotspot or area as well? So
great. Next question comes in from Steve. Steve is asking, are you using any analytical software or tools to draw connections between the NIBIN hits? Steve goes on to say he's received the I2 charts from ATF, but they're hard to use at a local level. So he's wondering what software, if you're using any analytical software to draw connections.
So I'm going to let Chad talk on a little bit, but go ahead.
Sorry. We do use the I2 program. I'm not 100% sure what actual computer program that is. The ATF, Shelby and Satin Jansen, who are with the ATF and with WPD as contractors, will put the charts and will review the leads before they come to me. And so it is very, I'm sure it's somewhat labor intensive in reference to knowing how to, you have to be skilled in reference to using that program, but it is a huge tool for us because the officers and my detectives, it's much easier to look at the chart and be able to establish what guns are being used in different locations as well as what guns are recovered. So any type of program where you can map that out is very, very helpful for everyone.
Outstanding. Thanks, Chad. Okay, a couple of questions about the Save a Case program. Steve wanted to know, how much pushback have you experienced from people who feel like the government might be just keeping the cases for other reasons?
So this is an all voluntary program. as well as they keep the casings themselves. So the gun owner puts the casing in the envelope, and they keep that envelope in case their gun is stolen or lost.
I
So they do not give it to us. They keep it unless the gun ends up missing or stolen.
got it. Thank you so much for that clarification.
And sorry, Aaron, just so we're clear, there was a little bit of pushback at the beginning, but everything, they seem to enjoy it. Like, they're going to gun shows. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that Deputy Chief Salcido went out to a gun show and they had good turnout, and they actually had to order more envelopes.
Oh, wow.
Because people were requesting it at gun shows in different places.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, people are hypersensitive to government intervention with guns, and once you explain to people the how the program works, even the strongest of and most concerned gun rights advocates are behind it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's a great program. All right, next question is from Patrick. Patrick is wondering, why aren't you entering revolvers into NIBIN?
We actually are. It's not continuously, but as needed, we are entering revolvers. 38s into it.
Got it. Great. Let's see. Mara wanted to know, are you doing any other analysis on the firearms that you see, such as DNA or latent prints?
Yes, Chad's going to go on that. Sorry.
Sure. Again, this is Chad Beard again. Yes, what we try to do in each incident is it varies. So if the gun is seized off of a person, we're not likely to submit it for prints or DNA. However, if a gun is found or it's just recovered, it's found on a car stop and you have 4 or 5 people inside of it, we are requesting that the firearm be swabbed for possible DNA evidence and then also fingerprinted. I am trying to put some training together, hopefully for officers. The goal is to have what we call gun liaison officers, which would be specially trained to obtain the DNA right there on scene and then submit that, and then we could actually get the test fire sooner than having to wait for the DNA and the fingerprints to come back, which is a part of a delay. So that's one of the things. Right now, we have just kind of altered our way of doing cartridge casings. Initially, we were swabbing and trying to print every cartridge casing, especially on a non-fatal shooting or a discharge case. We've stopped that unless there is significant injury or it's a homicide case, because we would much rather get the information into NIBIN, because we're getting so many leads and so much good information from the cartridge casings. And it's really a very rare chance that we get any type of latent prints or DNA back on the cartridge casings anyway. It's much better to get the casings entered in the NIBIN so that we can get a result back on that.
Outstanding. We actually did a webinar probably 3 years ago with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office that talked about their entire program for the DNA and latent analysis, latent print analysis. So if y'all are interested, I would refer you to that program. We'll try to provide a link in our email that goes out tomorrow. So time for just a couple more questions here. Next one is from Mara. How often are you confirming the leads via microscopic comparison?
Okay, it's Chad again. The microscopic leads, obviously, once the information's given to would be Aaron or Shelby, who analyzed the cartridge case, and they obviously are sent to the correlation center for verification, and then we get that information back. Since we've had so many successful cases developed from that, it's still required that the casings, and if we do recover a firearm, have to be submitted to a forensic or file marker tool examiner for confirmation. And so that's, again, where our hangup has been, where we've lost the forensic science or the technician at Forensic Science Center. So now all of our firearms are going to the KBI for official comparison, because we will need somebody to testify in court on that. I hope that answers the question on that.
Okay, Mara, definitely let me know, or feel free to send Director Brewer an email if you wanted to do any follow-up. Our last question of the day goes to Kevin. Kevin asks, regarding the evaluations that the Midwest Criminal Justice Institute is creating, are they process evaluations, impact evaluations, efficiency evaluations? What kind of evaluations is the MCJI performing?
Both, we do process evaluation and impact evaluations. We do a multitude of different ones. I mean, it's not just WPD that we do them for, but specifically on our projects with them, that's the ones that we're doing. Like hotspot analysis, different areas of that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Chief Ramsey, Director Brewer, again, and Chad, thank you all so much for responding to the questions. I will tell you that Mara indicated that response was great, Chad. Before we close out today, and maybe we can start with you, Chief, any closing comments you'd like to make with our audience?
No, it's an honor to share our story, and this is a collaborative effort in the truest sense, and we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for our folks' ability to work well together. And thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm very proud of what we've done here with everybody. Thanks.
And I would say the same. Thanks for having us. You know, one of the takeaways I would leave with you guys is collaboration, cooperation, and communication. To have those three elements makes you have a successful project or CJIC center. So thanks for joining us today.
Yes, I want to thank you. I want to again thank Ultra Electronics Forensic Technology for making this webinar and all those other webinars possible. We definitely hope to see everyone in the audience back for those 4 webinars in 2021. And with that, this concludes today's Justice Clearinghouse webinar. Take care, everyone, and stay safe. Bye now.